Hey everyone, it's Josh, J Vintage on the Minis, East Orlando, Florida. Just going to give you a quick tip video here. Talk about the fork gears on these earlier CT70s and Z50s. They got the rigid steel fork gear that's mounted and welded to the triple tree. It's all one part. So really what I want to address is just prepping for paint work and powder coat. Just some techniques of how to straighten these ears, and then a little tool that you guys can put together for $4 or less from a hardware store to help spread these things evenly. So we'll just take a look at, and the whole point is you want to get this spread before you go to paint and powder. Mess around with it after everything's painted. We started off looking at the CT70 front triple tree, and then now we got a hardtail Z50 1970 to 71 style hardtail triple tree setup, front forks, and then this is the hardtail headlight bucket, which are made of steel. And then we have a K3 to 78 style triple tree here with the fork ears. And this bike uses a plastic black bucket. So the CT70 is a plastic bucket, the Z50 is a plastic bucket. So you need to make sure that these are really nice, just a hair to slide in your painted parts, or the black plastic bucket that's on this Softail Z, because you can't use that bolt to pull it all together again, because your plastic bucket will distort. You kind of get away with it more with this guy because he's metal, and then actually the location of these through holes here on the back side, so you're not really going to distort this steel bucket, or less likely to do that, trying to pull these together. So pretty critical dimensions to get these set up right. This one you can have a little tolerance error, but regardless, this is a tool, if you want to call it that. It's all thread. It's about 12 inches long. I got it from a local Ace hardware style store, and so it's all thread, 2 nuts, 2 washers. That's it. It cost me like $4. Alright, so this particular size for me is 3/16 inch all thread. Fits nicely on the CT70 hole and the Softail hole. It's a little too large, ever too slightly big to go through the hardtail bolt hole, so you might need to get a 1/4 inch all thread for this bike setup. Alright, but same principle applies, of course. Another little tool, if you have a punch, is useful, and I'll show you how. You know, obviously could be a lot of things going on with this, but for the most part we're just going to look at, if I'm like having like maybe a bent and tweaked, and you can see how this one's turned in more. So you can use your punch or the all thread, appropriate size for your bolt hole here, and if you basically just use this with some leverage, you can do some pretty good straightening on these fork gears. So I'm just going to kind of pull this back. You see how you get that straight. And then we have, you can pick up on it. See if we can look at it there. It's a little bit of a bend. So with that same method, you can kind of come back and re-bend this into position. You can see I'm reforming that metal there. So with just some gentle leveraged maneuvers, you can get these ears to straighten up really nice. Alright, so that's one way to kind of use a tool like this, and you individually can kind of square up. You know, ultimately once everything's put in position, you want your holes to line up nice and evenly with the rod going straight through, especially on like a hardtail fork ears. You know, this stuff is really tweaked on this one. I can't fit this all rod or all thread in there, but I can kind of show you, like the tapered punch here will work, but these always tend to always be out of whack for some reason. So you can kind of use that to make those adjustments, and then make sure ultimately that these holes are in the same plane as each other. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use this as the spreader tool for the ears, or the bring them closer together real quick. If I need to spread it, you can put your nut in there. Let me get a little bit more room here. And then you go ahead and just, almost don't even need only one tool. So you can just hold this rod with your hand, and then you're gonna, this nut probably won't spin on you. And then go ahead and just do your rotations that will further your nuts from each other, and that's gonna obviously start to open up the fork ears. That's pretty evenly distributed while it's doing this process. So you can go ahead that way, and then the other way I'll show you real quick is just bring your nuts on the opposite side outside of these ears, and you can do the same process where you gently bring both your ears together. Alright, so now you're going to want to bring the nuts together if you're trying to bring it to close down more. So again, it gives you an opportunity to do some micro adjustments. So you're not whacking it with a hammer. You can kind of control how far you're going and going out to a good degree. You might need to bend the metal a little bit because it might have that rebound spring back. So you got to find that happy point of compression to rebound, but that's pretty much it. Hopefully save you some headaches. Don't go to paint without getting these ears in the right position, so you don't have to muck around with them after the fact. So I'll give you some dimensions on a screen. I'll put it out there for like 10 seconds on this video. You can pause it and write them down if you want, and I'll put the info in the summary part of the video too, on the YouTube video page. But all my dimensions are going to be based on the inner side of the ear fork flanges. Okay, so right here to here is my dimension on the hardtail headlight, then from here to here on this K3 and up softtail Z50. But just remember, my dimension I'm giving you for the CT70 will appropriately provide that recessed pocket dimension factored in to bring your headlight bucket from near the top plate forward. Okay, since I'll point out to you, like on the plastic bucket CT70s, these fork ears, the trim here is built like it's actually thicker, and then this is recessed inside the actual bolt hole. So really what we need to do is get these bolt spacing holes, the distance I'll provide you, and then we're not gonna, once it's in that proper position, you're not gonna want to push this in because it's going to be a little too tight. It might scrape up your paint. Actually, the proper technique would be to come a little bit back, then drop it down, and then come forward, and then that will get you into the position. Alright, so that's going to wrap up this little tip tricks video for you. Hopefully give you some better workflow when you're rebuilding these bikes. That's kind of a heartbreaker when you send it off to paint and you realize that, oh man, I forgot to get those ears nice and squared up, and then you might think you have to use a hammer or something. So hopefully that all thread shows you a gentle way to get those ears back in place. Hopefully you're doing that before you send it off, but all is not lost. You can still make some fine adjustments even after things come back from paint and powder. But hopefully that was useful information for you guys. Thanks for watching. As always, subscribe, and if you have any needs for parts and kind of labor or something for these bikes, my info for my business is in the summary area. Thanks for watching.